If an aspiring filmmaker tried to make you the star of his real-life horror movie, what would you do? It's pretty much your basic slasher setup. No escape, no service, no brain cells. However, this time the killer's behind the camera. If we're going to survive, we'll have to figure out who's calling the shots and who we can trust before it's time for a close-up. And there's not going to be any second takes. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the Depraved Director in a classic horror story. Elisa is a long way from home, and being but a lowly intern, she decides to save a few euros and make the trip via carpool. Hey, what do you know? Here's her ride now. Ah, yes, nothing screams reliability like Walter White's old Winnebago. Might want to grab that chicken parm to go. Something tells me it's going to be a long day. Of course, it couldn't be a truly classic horror story without a handful of nobodies to pad out the kill counter. Let's meet our sacrificial lambs, shall we? Behind the wheel, we have movie buff and travel blogger Fabrizio. He enjoys shoving a camera in people's faces and asking intrusive questions, as well as just generally being unpleasant to all five senses. Kinda gives me the first one to go vibes. Whether that's at the hands of the killers or his passengers, we'll just have to wait and see. Next up on the chopping block are Mark and Sophia. In case you couldn't tell, they're like so in love with one another, which pretty much does it for their defining character traits. There's a 0% chance either of them will be walking out of this. And last but not least is Dr. Ricardo. In addition to being all brooding and mysterious, he seems to think he's the only one on this planet who has a family to get back to, which he will inevitably use to justify treating everyone else like straight up garbage. Will that be enough to see him through this? Probably not, but at least this party has a healer, for now. With all riders accounted for, it's time to get this show on the road, and what better way to kick off the Odyssey than with a few cold ones, right? Well, not according to Elisa, but being the absolute chav he is, you know Ron Weasley isn't gonna leave that alone.
Just take a sip, be part of the tribe.
Hear that? Everyone's doing it. You don't want a bunch of randos you'll never see again to think you're a square, do you? Apparently not, as a little classic peer pressure is all it takes to make you one of the cool kids. Oh well, just a little road soda. What could possibly go wrong? Nerds, your food is under attack. At this point, most of what's in the grocery stores isn't even food. In fast food, I think we all understand that the less we know, the better. I get it. Planning out weeks worth of a variety of meals that actually taste good, let alone grocery shopping for every single item required, is a pain. There is hope for you with HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers step-by-step recipes and fresh pre-portioned ingredients right to your door. First, you set your meal plan preferences with options for carnivores, vegetarians, calorie counters, and more. You'll choose from 30 plus delicious weekly recipes carefully put together by their chefs. Then you'll receive those recipes with easy to follow instructions on the day of your choosing. You can skip a week or cancel anytime if your needs change. For example, for breakfast, I chose lemon ricotta pancakes with syrup and creme fraiche. For lunch, black bean and green pepper flautas. For dinner, beef tenderloin with tangy shallot sauce. No planning, portioning, or shopping. These meals far surpass what I could possibly think of or feasibly create in a timely manner. These meals aren't packages sitting around in a warehouse for months. Ingredients travel from the farm to you in less than 7 days. Skip the trip to the grocery store and stock up on quality balanced meals, snacks, sides, desserts, and more at HelloFresh Market. Use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGNERDJAN21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. See, she likes it. Of course, according to Mark, Elisa's reaction couldn't possibly have anything to do with the skunky old Italian piss water that's been rolling around the RV all summer. The way he sees it, it's just car sickness from Fabrizio's terrible driving. And naturally, he thinks he could do better. I guess everyone else agrees, considering they don't do jack to stop him besides moan and groan about it. Never mind the fact that he's somehow become irresponsibly drunk off of like 2 beers. I'm sure he's totally fine to steer this huge piece of crap across half of southern Italy. Seriously, you people would have to be completely dead from neck up to let this guy drive. Dude swaying side to side in his seat like he's drift racing. And for Christ's sake, you're not even gonna stop him from drinking even more? Then again, Fabrizio being sober as a judge isn't much better. Oh no, roadkill smack in the middle of the road? Let me just jerk the wheel across the oncoming lane and into a freaking tree. Real nice, Andretti. The next morning? You idiot slept through the night after all that? What, did you all hit your heads at the exact same time? For real, a broken leg is only half of Carrot Top's problems right now. He and Fabrizio would have to have serious concussions to stay knocked out for hours like that. Good thing Dr. Plot Convenience is here to straighten him out while the ambulance arrives. That is, provided they can even get one on the way. Turns out, somewhere along the line, they lost cell service to the point Elisa can't even get a text through to her mom, and it doesn't stop there.
Try and stop someone on the road.
There is no road.
Jesus, how long were you guys asleep? Jokes aside, the road isn't the only thing missing. There's no tree either. At least not the one that we ran into. So unless this ancient box has a flux capacitor in it, there's pretty much only one of two possibilities. Either someone found us on the side of the road and towed us here, or one of us took the wheel while everyone else was passed out. Whichever it is, we'd better get ready for a fight, because whoever or whatever dragged us out to the middle of nowhere probably doesn't have our best interest at heart. Oh yeah, just go ahead and knock on the door of the creepy old cottage. I'm sure the killers made sure to leave us out in front of Tucker and Dale's vacation home, and definitely not their human meat locker. I mean, give me a break. This dump looks like it belongs in Resident Evil 4. Best you can hope for is some lunatic with a sack over his face busting out with a chainsaw. At most, we should poke around the outside to see if we can find an axe or scythe or something we can use to defend ourselves on the slog out of here, because there is no way I'm sticking around to meet the homeowners. Predictably, the camper won't start, although by the sound of it, the battery's still got some life left in it. We don't want to waste too much time when the Hills Have Eyes people could show up at any second, but as long as the ignition's got power, we might as well crank on it for a while in case a miracle occurs. If that doesn't work, I say we find some fallen branches and rig up a litter to haul Mark out of here, because there's no way we're coming back for him, and I highly doubt anyone who stays behind will still be in one piece by the time help arrives. Instead, everyone just sits around pretending they just magically teleported here without being effectively kidnapped. That is, until Dr. Ricardo decides to strike off on his own to find the road. Well, he tries anyway. Almost immediately, Fabrizio invites himself along and takes command.
We have to go south. That is south.
You a Boy Scout or something?
No, but I grew up in a place like this.
Oh, did you now? Well, unless the place you grew up in was this place, how could you possibly know which direction the nearest road is? We shouldn't be wandering aimlessly anyway. Obviously, the RV and or the vehicle that towed it here would be heavy enough to disturb the earth and leave imprints through the grass. So we should just look around until we find the path we took in and follow it from the tree line to avoid being spotted. Furthermore, the fact Fabrizio is trying to steer the doctor's attempted egress in any particular direction is beyond sus, and everyone should be taking note of that. We still have no idea whether someone in the group is responsible for bringing us out here, and for all we know, he's taken them to a pre-dug hole just out of earshot. I mean, the mere fact that he's so eager to travel alone with someone in the group means he's either the bad guy and as such knows Ricardo isn't, or he's incredibly stupid, in which case we definitely shouldn't be taking directions from him. The good news is that with our chauffeur gone, we have an opportunity to inspect the RV for signs of sabotage or anything else that might incriminate Fabrizio. Sure, it's not like we're gonna find a diary stating his intentions to strand us out in the middle of nowhere before filleting us alive, but the little weirdo does film just about everything. Might be worth it to check out his camera for any footage of previous bad behavior. Finally, it's about 1,000,000 to 1 shot that Mark was coherent enough to remember the odometer reading before the crash, but the approximate fuel level could give us some idea of how far we've traveled. And even if they filled it back up at some point, any disparity would at least let us know whether the Winnebago made it here under its own power. As for the recon team, this is pretty much an exercise in futility. Without knowing where they came from and how far they've traveled, they could very well wind up walking all day without seeing anything. And you really don't want to be wandering around in the dark out here, especially after stumbling upon some kind of high-lung concert Wicker Man out in the forest.
What is that? Something satanic?
More or less.
What do you mean by that?
It means we need to leave now.
Yeah, you think? What could possibly have possessed you to get this close to it in the first place? As Fabrizio points out, the relatively fresh state of the animal heads means this was recently visited, and given it's only a short walk from where we started, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there is no way this isn't related to the shack somehow. Speaking of which, back at the camper, Elisa decides to go nosing around the murder house without even bothering to wake up her fellow stranded. Smart. That way, they'll have absolutely no idea how long you've been gone once you suddenly get got. Oh, and now one of the interior doors randomly shuts on its own. Better go check that out. Never mind the fact that the place is decorated by framed pictures of people in occult masks. Nah, I'm sure whoever's in there just loves intruders. You know, with fava beans and a nice Chianti. What a surprise. It's more demonic crap. Luckily, the others show up in time for Fabrizio to help make sense of it all. It turns out, these 3 freak shows are some local eldritch abominations that randomly showed up to save the village during the famine by brutally maiming and killing someone as part of a human sacrifice. And just how does he know all of this?
My grandma always told me their story when I was little.
Well, then your grandma's a nut, although it'd certainly explain a lot. You know what? Fine. Creepy monster people. What's far more distressing is that whoever took the time to light all these candles has almost certainly been watching us this entire time. And regardless of whether any of this crazy folklore is actually true, as long as they believe it is, there's no telling what they'll do to bring about the second coming. Just like what we saw out in the woods. This is absolutely grounds to GTFO. Not first thing in the morning like Dr. Ricardo suggests, but right now. If Mark can't be moved, we'll just have to send someone to collect his tattered remains once we make it back to civilization. Otherwise, what's the alternative? Spend the night in the RV? You guys realize it's a total death trap, right? Cramped, tons of windows, easily set on fire. I mean, with enough people, they could turn it on its side before we even had a chance to react. Not that it would make much of a difference, given it doesn't even run anyway. You'd basically just be serving yourselves up like a boxed lunch. Oh, well, I guess we're doing it. But for the love of God, at least turn out the lights so they can't watch our every move. I mean, I get we're well past pretending no one's home, but for all we know, they're lining up Dr. Ricardo's head with the Carcano right now. Not to mention the fact that with no lights outside, they could literally be surrounding the camper and we wouldn't even know it. Fortunately, nature calls for Fabrizio, so at least we'll be able to hear if he gets gobbled up like a meatball sub. Well, unless he walks like 40 yards away. What do you have, a shy bladder or something? You'd have to be out of your freaking mind to go all the way out there, provided you aren't in on the surprise, which is what everyone else should be thinking right now, watching him go brazenly marching out into the tree line. However, before anyone can open their mouth to state what is pretty much glaringly obvious at this point, a distant scream prompts Sophia and Elisa to abandon all sense of self-preservation and go charging back into the little shop of horrors. Just let them go, dude. If you're lucky, you might be able to slip away while they're getting taxidermied. Just then, Fabrizio comes running back to the RV to report what he saw during his suspiciously long bathroom break.
Papa, someone's in the woods. We need to get out of here.
Oh, you mean like when we saw those freshly severed animal heads arranged in tribute to a trio of torture gods? Yeah, you're right. Now is when we need to get out of here. And just where do you think he wants us to go? The dark, uncleared house, of course. God damn. Could it be any more apparent this guy is trying to get us killed? I mean, even when they somehow didn't see you idiots running there, which they almost certainly did, what do you think is the very first place that they're going to check? The girls are pretty much beyond saving at this point, and Mark is definitely a goner. If we, and by we, I mean Dr. Ricardo, want to get out of here alive, our only hope is to book it into the forest and pray to God we don't run straight into the cultists. Is it extremely dangerous? Absolutely. But we should have done this hours ago while we still had daylight. The only positive right now is that if we can break line of sight, it'll be a lot harder for them to track us down under the cover of darkness, unless they have night vision, in which case we probably weren't getting out of this one anyway. Once inside, the two men find Elisa and Sophia as they're checking out the attic, and for some reason, they decide that totally looks like a great place to post up. After all, what could be better than cornering yourself in a confined space they definitely know about? Case in point, they find a small girl with her tongue cut out encased in some kind of giant wicker basketing thing. I'm guessing she didn't put herself up there. If we just had to go into the house, we should have barricaded the front door before arming ourselves with whatever we could find and clearing the other rooms as a group. At least then we'd have more room to maneuver and multiple potential exits to choose from once the realization sunk in of just how profoundly short-sighted this was. In any case, it's too late now. Judging by that Wish.com air raid siren, I'd say things are about to get spicy.
Mark!
Oh, please, they are carrying a rifle.
You don't understand. She just loves him so much. Gotta go with the doc on this one. I mean, what exactly was your game plan there? Run out and scream at them to let him go? You'd get your head blown off, and that's if you're lucky. For real, a little Mississippi Queen action would be a a lot better than what Mark's about to go through. Oh, and look who showed up to do the deed. It's none other than the Three Stooges of eternal suffering themselves. And apparently, they are big fans of Stephen King's Misery. Not sure why it was necessary to snap his ankles given he already had a broken leg. Well, that and they're about to squeeze his head into a ginger ale. Miraculously, the 4 survivors managed to make it through the night without getting spotted. But even more amazing is the fact that they went more than a few hours without doing something stupid. After bailing the new girl out of her basket, the gang starts heading south through the forest, because that worked so well last time. However, instead of finding more cattle decapitations, this time they stumble upon the pick and pull of the damned. Alright, real quick, Italian nerds, is traveling south to safety like a survival meme or something over there? Let me know in the comments, because it makes absolutely no sense for them to just blindly accept that this is the right way to go. Getting back to the matter at hand, it seems whoever's out here juicing people has been at it a while, as they've accumulated a fairly decent wrecking yard in the process. That's not entirely bad news for us, as we might be able to scrounge up some supplies from all the cars of victims past. I'm sure all the best stuff's already been picked over by the cultists, but a good tire iron will always leave an impression, and we could improvise some single-use shivs from auto glass and broken mirrors. At the very least, we could probably siphon some gasoline to burn that backwoods hack shack to the ground. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nerd, what possible reason would we have to ever go back there? And I totally agree. But let's not kid ourselves. We are definitely going to wind up going back at some point. You know how I know this? Because we're still following Fabrizio around.
I was certain we were walking in the right direction. We were walking south.
Oh, you were? Yeah, crazy how walking in a straight line could bring you right back to where you started. This isn't grave encounters. The only reason we're back here is because you led us back here. And that's because you are deliberately keeping us trapped to fulfill your Gram's jacked up bedtime stories. And just to make matters worse, now the RV's gone. I mean, sure, it wasn't exactly doing us much good, but we at least had our stuff in there. Because of this, our fearless leader thinks we ought to go spend the night in the cabin, which is even dumber than staying in the camper the night before. For Christ's sake, it's the one place out here you know they're going to return to at some point. Plus, how do we know that they aren't already in there waiting for us right now? Okay, it's time for a change in command. The first order of business, we all take turns beating Fabrizio with a tire iron until his corpse simply phases out of reality. Like I said before, he's either intentionally leading us to our deaths or so painfully stupid that his very existence is a threat to our survival. Next, with dusk approaching, our best bet is to do as Sophia suggests and set a fire to literally everything in sight. Except we're not going to be waiting until the freak parade comes back. If we're lucky, the flames will bring in wildland firefighters we can flag down for help. Otherwise, unless we're actually dealing with supernatural beings here, they definitely won't be coming out of the trees like they were the night before. Worst case scenario, we at least force them to improvise a new torture chamber for the rest of us. As for how we go about that, the junkyard is probably too far away to reach before dark, but fortunately, our hosts were kind enough to light about 500 candles inside a wooden structure. I'd have our fastest group member go pound on the door to lure any potential campers away so the rest of us could go inside and get cooking. Of course, on the off chance they didn't bother to relight the shrine, they'd still have to keep a ton of matches around for just such an occasion. But we all know none of them are going to do any of that, because it's apparently way past their bedtime. Seriously, they don't even bother piling furniture in front of the door. No, instead everyone just sits around a lit lantern telegraphing their position across the entire area while cracking jokes and passing around the one remaining beer that was conveniently left behind. Well, almost everyone.
No thanks, I'll be on watch.
What? You're letting this loser stand guard after he accidentally led everyone in a giant loop. No way I'm trusting him with something as important as watching over us while we sleep. Also, you idiots know that beer was tampered with, right? I'm not saying you'll hork up your insides Hateful Eight style, but something's definitely wrong with it. I mean, why else would it have been left out in plain sight for all of you to easily find it? Do you think they took the camper apart and carried it away piece by piece or something? Suddenly, Elisa awakens to the wail of the siren to find the others have gone missing, all except for, you guessed it, Fabrizio. Turns out he must have have fallen asleep on the job. Shocker, I know. Whoa, wait a second. You're not actually going out there, are you? Do you not see the giant crowd of masked weirdos clicking their tongues and ringing bells and shit while your friends are tied to stakes? I mean, they got a freaking Pegasus out there. That can't be good. Thankfully, everyone's favorite travel blogger reels her in before she could go any further. Although, if I had to guess, it's because he's saving her for the final act. As for Sophia and Ricardo, I'll spare you the gory details. Suffice to say, they both received the mother of all extreme makeovers, culminating in simultaneous Sicilian neckties. Basically nothing they could do at that point. I'm afraid that's what you get for spending the night 10 feet away from where you watched someone get brutally tortured to death only 24 hours earlier. That said, it's strange the mob hasn't started tearing the place apart to get to us yet. I mean, it would be if it weren't so completely obvious Fabrizio was one of them. Speaking of whom, it turns out this is his idea of a romantic atmosphere, as all of a sudden, he's going full Discord mod for Elisa. However, his creeper hug backfires when she hears an unknown woman's voice speaking through one of his hearing aids.
Who are you?
I'm Fabrizio, it's me.
Who's talking?
Who cares? The mere fact that he's in communication with anyone means he's been screwing you from the very beginning. Time to smash that beer bottle over the table and jam it through his eye socket. Then again, his lurid predilections are likely the only reason we're still alive. Sucks to say, but at this point, we're pretty much at the mercy of the crowd outside, and trying to hold him hostage at knife point probably wouldn't get us too far. As shocking as it must have been to discover something we should have pieced together hours ago, given the circumstances, we would have been better off keeping this realization to ourselves and waiting for a more advantageous opportunity to act. After all, they let us go another day after Mark got his, so perhaps they were planning to do the same this time around. In the meantime, we should have poured on the charm and really made this Goomba think he had us wrapped around his finger. Will it be disgusting? Yeah, but I guess it really comes down to how low you're willing to go to survive. Unfortunately, once the cat's out of the bag, there's no going back. With his evil plans ruined, Fabrizio launches into a full-blown nice guy diatribe before calling in the muscle to put the final girl on ice. Sometime the following day, Elisa comes to in front of a wall of monitors showing multiple camera feeds from not only the cultist house, but also the RV and several points throughout the forest. As Fabrizio himself soon reveals, it turns out this entire ordeal was arranged as part of his big debut in the Italian horror scene, only he decided to save on the practical effects by actually murdering a whole bunch of people. Much to his dismay, Elisa calls out his crappy home movies for the derivative trash they are, thus bringing about this little tirade.
In Italy, no one wants to be scared. You go to the movies and like, oh, that's so gross, no.
Well, then why on earth are you doing this if no one's going to watch it? Nah, I get it. He goes on to make this whole point about how people there don't like scary movies, but then they drool over violent news stories and true crime and blah blah blah. We've all heard Vicarious by Tool. Problem is, the only way your movie is going to get any mainstream circulation is if publishers think it's all fake, which means hardly anyone in Italy is going to watch it anyway. Oh, well, if he had any brains at all, he wouldn't have been using a ride-sharing app to round up his actors in the first place. Seriously, that's the first thing the cops are going to look into. Still, probably not a good idea for Elisa to go poking the bear with our perfectly valid criticisms. Guy's got a real Sandra Cohen thing going on. Of course, he did just reveal his entire insidious plot to her, so no matter what, it's about to be curtains. That is, unless she's willing to do something extremely painful. God damn. Homemade nails. So much for her piano career. Of course, just because she made it out of the chair doesn't mean we're home free. I mean, do you really think that they just leave us unsupervised in an unlocked room and assume we wouldn't make the obvious physical sacrifice to gain our freedom? Oh, no. That's exactly what they did. What kind of production is this? You mean to tell me they didn't even put a production assistant with a PX4 out there in case she tried to get away? Jesus Christ. Why not just leave a huge rack of weapons for her while you're at it? Okay, really? At this point, the only thing that could stop her is her own conscience, as she's still committed to rescuing the girl in the wicker basket from earlier. You're gonna have to take a hard pass on that one. You saw what they did to the others. For all we know, she got set on fire the second we looked away from the window. At least if we get away now, we can try and send someone back who's better equipped to deal with the situation. Fortunately, Elisa will only have to go as far as the nearest trailer before she finds her. Except, that's not all she finds. It seems young Kiera's missing tongue was nothing but trick photography, and it doesn't stop there. She's actually Fabrizio's older sister. You heard me right. Chick's got that same condition as the psycho from the Orphan movies. Lucky for her, Elisa's found the cure.
Oh, gosh.
Both barrels. Nice. Hey, I'm all for digging 2 graves when the situation calls for it. But since there's at least a few dozen people around the set willing to go through with all this, we might have been better off just making our escape and channeling our thirst for vengeance into something else. But it's time for Fabrizio's close-up. Not sure why he would slowly walk over while she's reloading that side-by-side. All he had to do was grab a hold of it before she could tap him in the kneecap, and he could have probably turned the tables back. And whatever. I like Elisa's rewrite better anyway. We're not out of the woods yet. I mean, literally, just because we've done away with the big bads doesn't mean we'll survive being hunted down like a dog on a long trek back to civilization. Assuming there actually was one, that is. Yeah, evidently, this entire episode took place like half a mile from a densely populated beach. Who would have thought? Still, it's a good thing young Water Wings showed up when he did. Otherwise, Elisa probably would have kept walking south until she wound up back at the cabin. In the end, only Elisa made it out alive, and even then, only because they did about as little as possible to keep her locked up. However, had the travelers actually paid attention to the mountain of red flags popping up around Fabrizio, they would have stomped him out back in the camper and taken off before they even knew about the cult in the first place. And given how terrible the rest of his crew was at securing the set, they probably would have gotten away with it too. For that reason, I think a classic horror story was beaten. Moral of the story, don't go walking south for no reason.